Brahmadya Sritam Vayari Tarata Chate Savigya Swara Dinna Brahmadaya Adikawai Yantiza Suraya Tejo Barimrida Jita Vinimajo Jatra Trisagamisya
Damna Swena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Paranti Mahi
Damna Swena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Paranti Mahi. O
my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva,
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva,
O all-pervading personality of Godhead,
O all-pervading personality of Godhead,
offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
The primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction. Oh. He's independent because there are no cause beyond him. Well, where will we stop? He's directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestation.
Directly conscious of all manifestations.
And he's independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
He's independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
Is this only who first imparted Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji?
Is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji?
The original created being, very living being. Because of him, by him the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation, water is in the fire.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water.
And land seen of water.
Or land seen in water.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of the nature.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
I therefore meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna, whose eternal existence in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the reaction of the material world.
Which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
I meditate upon him because he's the absolute truth.
Dharma Pujita Kaitravotra
Dharma Pujita Kaitravotra
Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu
Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu
Shivedam Tapo Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite
Kim Vapurer Ishwaraha Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra Krite Behi Sususabhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in maturity.
It's sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient in itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
as soon as one submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam Pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam Muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam. The mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna
Shrivatam Swakata Krishna
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Hridyantaksto hi Abhadrani
Vidyantasto Hiya Bhadrani
Vidunati Suhitsatam.
Vidunati Surisata.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literature,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad-Gita,
or to hear from it directly from the Bhagavad-Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
is the rest of right activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about
Lord Krishna who is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's
acts as a best-wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies a devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies devotees constantly engaged in hearing.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta Preshra Bhadresh
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Se
bhagavati utamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamasloke
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develops dormant transcendental knowledge.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears about Krishna Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in devotional service.
Tadarajas tamo bhava
The Rajastamo Bhava,
kamaloba dayaschaye
Radayasya,
cheta etar anavidam
Cheta Itaran,
stitvam sattve prasidati.
Tam Sadvet Prasidati.
By a development of devotional service,
By developing devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and
one
ignorance,
becomes free from the modes of passion,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and thus material loss and avarice.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam Prasanna
Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga taha
Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga,
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavat Tattva
Mukta
Vijnana,
Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta Sangha Sajaya.
When these impurities are wiped away,
All the impurities are wiped
the
away.
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
The candidate remains steady in position.
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
Becomes alive by devotion.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
And understand the science of God.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Vidyate Hridaya Granthi,
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
Siddhante Sarva Samshaya,
Siyante Chasyakarmani
Siddhante Chasakarmani,
Drista Evat Manishware.
Dhruva Eva Manishari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus, Bhakti Yoga saves the heart of material affection,
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
enables them to come at once to the stage of assumption among Brahma,
understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 15. Antakale tu Purusha
Antakale tu Purusha
agate gatasad dvasa
Agate Gata Sadvasa
chinyad asanga shastrena
Jindiyada Sangha Shastrena
spriham dehe nuye chatam.
Spriham Nuye Chatam.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death. But one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making a permanent settlement in this world, although it is a settled fact that one has to give up everything here that has been created by valuable human energy. Great statesmen, scientists, philosophers, etc., who are foolish, without any information of the spirit soul, think that this life of a few years only is all in all, and that there is nothing more after death. This poor fund of knowledge, even in the so-called learned circles of the world, is killing the vitality of human energy, and the awful result is being keenly felt. And yet, the foolish materialistic men do not care about what is going to happen in the next life. The preliminary instruction in the Bhagavad-Gita is that one should know that the identity of the individual living entity is not lost even after the end of this present body, which is nothing but an outward dress only. As one changes an old garment, so the individual, living being, also changes his body, and this change of body is called death. Death is therefore a process of changing the body at the end of the duration of the present life. An intelligent person must be prepared for this and must try to have the best type of body in the next life. The best type of body is a spiritual body, which is obtained by those who go back to the kingdom of God or enter the realm of Brahman. In the second chapter of this canto, this matter will be broadly discussed, but as far as the change of body is concerned, one must prepare now for the next life. Foolish people attach more importance to the present temporary life, and thus the foolish leaders make appeals to the body and the bodily relations. The bodily relations extend not only to this body, but also to the family members, wife, children, society, country, and so many other things which end at the end of life. After death, one forgets everything about the present bodily relations. We have a little experience of this at night when we go to sleep. While sleeping, we forget everything about this body and bodily relations, although this forgetfulness is a temporary situation for only a few hours. Death is nothing but sleeping for a few months in order to develop another term of bodily engagement, which we are awarded by the law of nature according to our aspiration. Therefore, one has only to change the aspiration during the course of this present body, and for this, there is need of training in the current duration of human life. The training can begin at any stage of life or even a few seconds before death. But the usual procedure is for one to get the training from very early life, from the stage of brahmacharya, and gradually progress to the grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa orders of life. The institution which gives such training is called varnashrama dharma, or the system of sanatana dharma, the best procedure for making the human life perfect. One is therefore required to give up the attachment to family or social or political life just at the age of 50 years, if not earlier, and the training in the vanaprastha and sannyasa ashramas is given for preparation of the next life. Foolish materialists, in the garb of leaders of the people in general, stick to family affairs without attempting to cut off relations with them, and thus they become victims of nature's law and get gross bodies again, according to their work. Such foolish leaders may have some respect for the people at the end of life, but that does not mean that such leaders will be immune to the natural laws under which everyone is tightly bound by the hands and feet. The best thing is, therefore, that everyone voluntarily give up family relations by transferring the attachment from family, society, country, and everything thereof to the devotional service of the Lord. It is stated herein that one should give up all desires of family attachment. One must have a chance for better desires. Otherwise, there's no chance of giving up such morbid desires. Desire is the concomitant factor of the living entity. The living entity is eternal, and therefore his desires, which are natural for a living being, are also eternal. One cannot therefore stop desiring, but the subject matter for desires can be changed. So one must develop the desires for returning home back to Godhead, and automatically the desires for material gain, material honor, and material popularity will diminish in proportion to the development of devotional service. A living being is meant for service activities, and his desires are centered around such a service attitude. Beginning from the top executive head of the state down to the insignificant pauper in the street, all are rendering some sort of service to others. The perfection of such a service attitude is only attained simply by transferring the desire of service from matter to spirit, or from Satan to God. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is a very powerful statement. that at the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. So even a materialist may say that they're not afraid of death, but it's impossible for them to cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. So, for example, you have people who agree to be frozen right before they die. So that means they're not really afraid of death, but they want to avoid it to remain perpetually in the body, the material body, which is destined to die. No one can stop that. It's the law of nature. So we see that a person can have half the enchilada, but not the whole enchilada, as they say in Los Angeles. So it's important that we hear Srimad Bhagvatam to get the whole picture and not live a life of half done or half achieved. So Prabhupada says the foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making a permanent settlement in this world, although it is a settled fact that one has to give up everything here that has been created by valuable human energy. So some of the most ridiculous positions people take is I think the SpaceX company, is that Amazon that owns that? Oh, yeah, yes. So he advertised that very soon he's going to have a rocket that can take people to Mars, but it's only a one-way ticket. So he asked for volunteers. You know how many people volunteered? I think around 10,000 people. That's how stupid people are. It's a one-way ticket to death, right? But yet they still volunteer. So they're not afraid of death, but they want to live forever in the body. So there's no way that they're going to live on the Mars planet, for more than some short period of time. Even if they get there, they can't even get there. But assuming that they may get there, it's only for a short period of time before they die. Most of them will die in the trip, but maybe some will survive. But they will not be able to survive permanently in Mars, or any planet, any other planet than the Earth. So, and they can't live permanently on the Earth either. Yeah.
They are saying that each person will live forever, but they are saying that humanity to continue, they need, because the Earth might,
They need to get away from this planet because this planet is going to be environmentally impossible to live on because man is destroying the environment. Is that right?
Yeah, and also some argument that at some point some comet can come and...
Well, some comet can come on to Mars also, right? Wherever you go, there's a possibility of a comet. So anyway, these are all silly ideas. There's no rhyme or reason to them. And but 10,000, at least 10,000 people or thousands of people volunteered. See? So we can see how desperate people are to find a way to have immortality. So we can't rely on people who are famous, like movie stars or politicians or intellectuals or professors or PhDs. We can't rely on them because as long as they're attached to the body, whatever they do or say is going to be imperfect. As long as we're attached to the body, whatever we do or say is going to be imperfect also. So to develop this, as we were explaining yesterday, this jnana and vairagya is very important. And most people are not able to do it. But the process is not actually that difficult if we follow the process. Just like if you follow a bona fide recipe for, let's say, making a cookie, and you follow all the steps correctly, then you'll end up with a positive result. But if you don't pay attention to the recipe, and there's a lot of things involved, there's the ingredients, there's the temperature, there's the time of cooking, all these things are required. So if you don't pay attention, the end result will not be good. So in the same way, if we follow what the acharyas have given us, and originally Krishna has given, for success in the human form of existence, we'll attain the desired result, going back to Godhead with a spiritual body that's eternal. But if we do half measures, then although we make an effort, we don't reach the result. And we just remain in the world of suffering and misery. So yesterday we were explaining this. Prabhupada says the yogi's business is by controlling the mind, focus it toward Krishna or Lord Vishnu. That is real yoga system. So all the gymnastic yoga is a bunch of nonsense and a waste of time. The goal of that gymnastic yoga is to bring the mind under control by focusing it on something. But the real purpose is to focus the mind on Krishna. That's real yoga. But that's not being taught in the yoga schools. Okay, so Prabhupada says as soon as you focus the mind on Krishna, that's Bhakti Yoga. Either you do it by meditation or do it 24 hours by practical application of your activities for Krishna. That's called Bhakti Yoga. So, Bhakti Yoga is much easier than meditative yoga because it's fun. Raja Vidya Rajaguyam Pavitam Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Dharmam Susukam. It's full of happiness. And Avyayam, it's eternal. So we can eternally engage our activities in the service of Krishna, and we'll be happy, and we'll be liberated from all the downside of material life. And what's the downside of material life? The law of karma, the three types of misery. Then there is ignorance, tamas, right? And there's also natural, and there's three types of miseries, right? And then there is all kinds of difficulties, such as hunger, thirst, and illusion, and fearfulness, and death, and old age. These are all negative things that happen to people in this life. And there's no way of getting away from it. Birth, death, old age, and disease. And there are many other negative things, such as time. Time is extremely mean to people in this world. In the spiritual world, time supports everything we do. But in the material world, everything is destroyed by time. So it's impossible to have sustained happiness in this material world. It's impossible to remain eternally in the material body. But yet, people are trying to do this. And they're spending all their time chasing after fool's gold or Hava Mahal, some palace in the sky. And it just causes extreme frustration. So it is possible to be able to focus the mind 24 hours a day on Krishna, and that's by being engaged in Bhakti Yoga. That's also called Samadhi. And Prabhupada says that you can be doing all kinds of activities for Krishna, or in dovetail the different activities that you perform in Krishna's service. So therefore, it's said, this, what you would call bhakti, is so easy. And how is it so easy? Well, yat karosi, yad asnasi, yad johosi, dadasi yat. Yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurushva madarpanam. This is a very important verse, 9th chapter, 27th verse. It says, yat karosi, whatever you do, yad asnasi, whatever you eat, yad johosi, whatever you offer to Guru or Krishna, and and dadasi yat, whatever you give away. Like you might give away your Nike shoes to somebody, right? Or you might give away your car to someone. Well, and then yat tapasyasi konteya, whatever austerities you perform. And then finally it says, tat kurushva, do that, madarpanam, for me, to Krishna, as an act of devotion. So everybody is working hard, especially in America. People work hard. American workers work very hard, and so also do Japanese workers and Latino workers. And people are working hard all over the world, and they're working like day and night. But the result is that they're working to enjoy sense gratification, right? Like every Ananda Mela, we employ Latino workers, right, to help us with all the heavy carrying of things and taking things from the farm to the festival site, and it's hard work, and then we associate with them. Like they come with me in the big truck, or we're working side by side with them, and we end up talking to them and trying to preach to them a little bit also. But what the horror is that most of them are heavy-duty meat eaters. They love to drink beer and get drunk, and they like to have sex, right? So they're working hard like this, and we're working right with them. You have to say that. It's a fact. We're working right with them. We're up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning on the last day, carrying all those cinder blocks and rushing to the farm, emptying the truck, coming back again, going back again, coming back again, going back again. It's a lot of hard work, setting up and breaking down. And plus, there's no rest because it goes on for 3, 4 days. The last week before Ananda Mela is really very intense. But they're doing it for sense gratification, and we're doing it for the pleasure of Prabhupada and Krishna, you see. So the work is the same. The effort is the same. Day and night, basically, we're working, right? But they're working for sense gratification, and we're working to please Krishna. So that's the difference between Bhakti Yoga and ordinary karmis. And we see it vividly, especially working right hand and foot with the Latino workers. They're not all Latino. There's other workers also. So, therefore, ordinary karmis, they cannot understand the Bhakta's transcendental platform of doing work. They can't understand it. They think they're exactly like us. But they're a little sentimental, like they chant Hare Krishna and they dance in the street. They're just sentimentalists. We're real hardcore realists, Work hard, play hard. That's their philosophy. Work hard and play hard. So, Bhakti Yoga is based on jnana and vairagya, knowledge and renunciation. And the karmis, their life is based on ignorance and material mundane attachment. Right? Both are doing the same work. That's the point. But the whole inspiration for the work is different. So one cannot engage in bhakti without having jnana and vairagya, knowledge and renunciation. And you don't have to cultivate it like you don't have to go to school 12 years to get a certificate that you have jnana, or you don't have to meditate in a dark cave for 4 years to get a certificate that you are a vairagi. No, you just chant Hare Krishna, listen to the classes, come to Mangal Arati, bathe regularly, take prasadam, and engage all your activities to please Prabhupada and Krishna. And you naturally, without making any extraneous effort, you get knowledge and renunciation. You get it naturally. You don't have to specifically say, I'm going to spend 4 years to get knowledge. No. I'm going to spend 4 years to be completely renounced. No. You get it naturally by this hearing and chanting and dancing and feasting. So, what does pure knowledge actually mean? It is, Prabhupada explains, that I do not belong to this material world. I'm a spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi. Therefore, my business is to serve the Supreme Brahman or Parabrahman, meaning Krishna. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam, Purusham Sasvatam Divyam, Adidevam Ajam Vibhu. So this is the 10th chapter, verses 8 to 12. Not 8 to 12, verse 12 and 13. So this is Arjuna's mature realization after hearing almost 10 chapters of the Bhagavad-Gita. He understands Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His abode and himself are the supreme goal of all this activity that we're performing. Right? So, therefore, Sarvashichaham Hridi Sanivisto Matak Smitir Gyanam Apahanam Cha Vedaischa Sarvir Aham Eva Vedya Vedanta Krit Vedavid Eva Chaham. So this Vedaischa Sarvam Aham Eva Vedya. Krishna is the goal of the whole Vedic knowledge. So unless we come to the conclusion that I should spend the rest of my life being engaged in Krishna's service, we do not have knowledge. We might have read it, we might have passed tests in it, we might even get some degrees like Bhakti Shastri or Bhakti this or Bhakti that, but unless we actually engage practically in time-sensitive devotional service, we have not understood anything. So therefore, this Sasvatam, Purusham Sasvatam Divyam, this 10th chapter, 12th verse, is extremely important. Because it means we understand that God is not impersonal. He's a person. And he likes certain things, and he doesn't like certain things. So therefore, without knowledge, this Vedaischa Sarviraham Eva Vedya, by studying the Vedas and Vedanta and all that stuff, if one cannot understand the transcendental nature of Krishna, who is an eternal person, in other words, we have to understand the nature of Krishna. He's not subject to the modes of material nature. His body is not material, although he has a body. His activities, when he comes in this material world, seem to be, in certain respects, like an ordinary human being. But yet, he also manifests amazing, extraordinary activities also that proves that even though it looks like he has a human body, it looks like he's acting like a human, he's not. He is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who no one is equal to or greater than. So once we understand Krishna's nature and what is actually Krishna, and then we'll engage in devotional service. But if we don't understand, then we'll never have perfect knowledge. What we'll have is agyana, ignorance. So Krishna therefore says, Bahanam janmanam ante yanavam prapadyante vasudeva samaramiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many, many years of trying to understand and many, many births and deaths of trying to understand Krishna's nature, Krishna's activities, Krishna's energies, and all these things about Krishna, when we come to the conclusion that Krishna is everything for me, that is an exceptional realization that makes us what's called a Mahatma, a great soul, an exceptional soul. And it's very rare, sudurlabha. It's very rare for people to come to that position, but it's possible. So full knowledge of Krishna means, what is the absolute truth? What am I? What is my relationship with the absolute truth? That's called knowledge, those three things. What is the absolute truth? What am I? And what is my relation to the absolute truth, or Krishna? So if one understands Krishna is my master, he is my eternal father, I'm not this body, I am also the same thing as Krishna, spiritual. Mamayavamsa, I am part and parcel of Krishna. If Krishna is gold, I'm also gold. But Krishna is the gold mine, and I am the gold earring. And this is knowledge. This is jnana vairagya yuktena, connected to Krishna through knowledge and renunciation of the material concept of life. So when one comes to this knowledge, then such a devotee is very reluctant to engage in material attachments. Very reluctant, meaning they don't want to have any connection to any material attachment. Now, how do you develop that mentality, which seems impossible for most people, almost all people? Well, it's not like the Mayavadis, rejecting everything. It's like the devotees who learn to use everything in Krishna's service. That's also rejecting material attachment, when you use everything in Krishna's service. So that's the difference between the miser and the liberal person. You know, the miser is like a crab. And if you study the crab, you know what a crab looks like. It has those tentacles and those pincers, and they live in these dark places, and they come out and they grab things and they bring it back into that dark place underwater, and they're very possessive, and they protect and they hide those things that they're attached to. See? So that's what, that's the same as, putting some valuables in a bank vault. You go to the bank and you have your own box, or sometimes people have 3-4 boxes, right? And they're keeping their black money there, or they're keeping some jewelry there, or they're keeping some special documents there, so nobody else can see them. They don't even trust their own house. They don't even trust sometimes their own family, so they get this bank vault, and they put things there. That's like the crab. And that's extreme attachment. Extreme attachment. So, therefore, without this knowledge and renunciation, we become materially infected, and we can't. And along with that comes fear and anxiety, because, oh my God, you read in the newspaper, the Bank of America in Samamis was just robbed. The thieves got into the bank vault and emptied all the boxes. Oh my God, the people will be ready to commit suicide. But banks do get robbed, and sometimes the thieves do get into the vault and take everything in those boxes, right? There's locked boxes. So there's fear, there's anxiety all the time due to material attachment to the body and with everything in relationship to the body, the members of the family, the money, the stocks, the 401k, the cars, the dog, everything. All the time you see these signs, you see these little posters, lost dog, right? If you find a lost dog, give us a call. There's a reward for the lost dog. We love this dog, right? And you see a picture of the dog, right? So people are attached, and they're fearful all the time because of their material attachments. So Prabhupada says that this is called jnana. Jnana means one's not sentimental. One knows clearly what and who Krishna is. That is jnana. And what is my relationship with Krishna? That is jnana. And what is my duty to Krishna? That is jnana. That's knowledge. And as soon as you know all these things, Prabhupada says, what is Krishna, who you are, what is your relationship with Krishna, and what is your duty to Krishna, then naturally you become reluctant to these material activities. And that's called vairagya. Very reluctant to get involved again in material activities. What's a material activity? Well, we explained it. It's like the Latino workers. They're working their butts off. They work really hard. But it's so they can have some sense gratification. You know, they go home after a hard day's work, they drink some beer, they eat some meat, and they have sex. And then they start all over again the next day. See? That's what they're working for. Their highest joy in life is sex. And to enjoy the sex, and then they love to eat meat, and then to digest the meat, they have to drink liquors. To heat up the stomach to digest that undigestible meat. It never digests completely, and then they get uric acid that goes into the bloodstream and destroys the arteries and the veins and eventually the heart and causes all kinds of problems. It's all because of the meat eating and overeating and over sense gratification. So, therefore, Prabhupada explains that if we engage in devotional service, a lot of miraculous things happen. One is, if we engage and do not unfailingly, we lose our attraction to material sense gratification, although we see it all around us. But the attraction to it is lost. And another thing is that we suddenly realize that this Krishna consciousness is natural. It's our real nature. Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti Sadhya Kabunai Shavanadi Shuddha Chitta Koraya Idai. So that means that this Krishna consciousness naturally exists in our heart because we were originally with Krishna. We can't achieve Krishna consciousness but artificially. It's real because we were originally with Krishna. We were originally Krishna conscious, and therefore, but we just forgot. And therefore, when we begin to taste it, we realize this is who I really am. This is what I am. And I'm not this other thing, always in anxiety and fear and lusty and angry and frustrated. That's not who I am. This is what I am, you know. Just like one time, there was a devotee festival on one side of a river. And on the other side of the river, there was this false guru, and he had his disciples carrying these heavy rocks. And they were walking on the bank of the river, but on the other side of the river, and the devotees were having a kirtan and banging their drums and their kartals as loud as they could, and chanting as loudly as they could, and jumping up and down, and, you know, whoopee, haribol, you know. And some of the brahmacharis of the false guru, they were carrying these heavy rocks. It was a hot day. They were sweating, you know, and some of them looked over and they saw how happy the devotees were. And one of them said, "This is crazy, man. I'm not going to do this anymore." And he threw the rocks down and jumped into the river to swim across. And the guru started shouting, "You fool! You're running after those idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They're just wasting their life, you know, chanting and dancing. This is the real life. You got to carry the rocks. You got to sweat. It's hard labor. This is the real life, you know." And the other guys holding those rocks and saw, you know, their buddies swimming across the river, and he gets on the other side and starts jumping up and down and saying, Haribol, man, drop those rocks, man. It's real pleasure here, real ecstasy, you know. And the other guys got really confused, and the guru kept preaching to him, "That's nonsense, that's illusion, that's not the real thing, this is the reality," right? So that's where we are, right? We can see And people come and they see, devotees jumping up and down, chanting Hare Krishna, and they say, wow, this is not spiritual life, man. You got to be real serious about it. You got to meditate, and not all this noise and clanging these cartels and jumping up and down. That's what some people say when they come here. They don't like it. They think it's not spiritual. Right? However, Lord Chaitanya, when he was speaking to Prakasananda Saraswati, who was criticizing the Sankirtan that they were doing, that Lord Chaitanya was doing with his devotees in Benares or Kashi, it said that this is not what you should be doing. He said, young man, he said, you look like Narayana. You have this glow, but you should not be doing this. You should be studying Vedanta. And with the Sarirak Bhashya of Sankaracharya. Lord Chaitanya was very respectful, but he said, well, my guru told me that I'm a fool, and I can't understand Vedanta, therefore I should just chant Hare Krishna and dance and have prasadam and tell everyone to chant and dance also. So then there was more challenges, and then finally Lord Chaitanya explains the Atmarama verse, and they're all flabbergasted. They'd never heard anyone so erudite and so scholarly and so having such a deep understanding of Vedanta. They're accusing him of not studying Vedanta. He's saying, yeah, my guru said I'm a fool, I don't know anything, and so I should just chant and dance. But actually, he's the top Vedantist. He knows it better than anybody else, even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So this is the point, that anyone who's accepted this material body, which is what you would call asat, something that is not eternal, something that is what you would consider illusory in a sense, because you cannot live forever in the body, and the body is completely different than the soul. So that's called dehinam. It means a person who accepts the body as their real identity. So a Vaishnava is surada sarvadehinam. That is, a Vaishnava understands that the body belongs to Krishna, and his soul also belongs to Krishna. Therefore, both the body and the soul should be used in Krishna's service. That's the real understanding. But the materialistic person, they can be Mayavadi philosophers, they can be jnanis, they can be yogis. They think the body belongs to me, and I should use it for sense gratification. Now, some of the jnanis, they say, no, I'm not this body, I am pure spirit, aham brahmasmi. But the spirit is one. There's no such thing as Vaikuntha, Goloka, many people, Krishna, gopis, cows, trees, parrots. That's all nonsense. There's only Brahman, and it's impersonal. And the yogis, they're so enamored by their powers, the yoga cities, that they don't really want to go beyond that. They think that they can become God by mastering all these cities. So whether you're a karma yogi or a karmi or a jnani or a yogi, without Krishna consciousness, without bhakti, you will not. You're not much different than one of those Latino workers. You're not engaged in such gross sense gratification. You're engaged in more subtle sense gratification, but it's still sense gratification. So therefore, this verse, Prabhupada quotes, that is, that everyone can become a devotee. It's very easy. You just chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, and hear Srimad Bhagvatam, and so forth. And not only that, it's very easy to become a guru also. Yarideka, Yarideka Tahikaha Krishna Upadesh, Amara Agyaya Guruhana Edesh, that wherever you are, you can be in Sammamish, you can be in Kirkland, you can be in Issaquah. You can become guru simply by explaining to others honestly, without any addition or subtraction, who is Krishna. And Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's very easy. It's not difficult. And what happens? You become guru simply by advising everyone the instruction which Krishna has given. And that's what a guru is. He tells the truth about Krishna. And in that way, you become guru. You're a servant of God. That's your position. That is real knowledge, or jnana. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya said, don't talk all nonsense things. Simply say the real thing. Right? So what is the real thing? Sarvadharman prityaja mam ekam saranam vraja. You surrender to Krishna. You take up this mission. My dear sir, you tell people, you give up everything nonsense. You simply surrender to Krishna. If you say that to people, then you become guru. Is it very difficult to become guru? No. But we shall not take this business. We shall not talk all nonsense and become guru, an incarnation of God, and so on, and cheat others and cheat yourself. Prabhupada says, this is going on. To become guru is not at all difficult. Simply you surrender yourself to Krishna. You become abhayam satyasam sudhir. Abhayam means fearless, and satyasam sudhir, it means, and you become fearless by making your life perfect, by surrendering to Krishna and dedicating all your activities to Krishna. So, and then you become akutam bhayam, fearless, and therefore the only way to do that is bhakti mam abhijananti yavan yasyasmi tatvata tatomam tatvato gyatva vishitetad anantaram. It's only by devotional service that one can become knowledgeable of Krishna and attain Krishna consciousness and learn how to use everything in the service of Krishna. Without surrendering to Krishna, you'll never be able to understand this philosophy. Krishna reserves the right not to reveal himself to anyone. Aham praksa sarvasya yogamaya samanvritaha buddhoyam nabijananti mam evam, so forth. That you cannot, that Krishna is not obliged to reveal himself. He only does it when he's pleased with the service of the devotee, and the devotee pleases Krishna by pleasing Guru, and then one pleases Krishna. So, therefore, yoginam apisarve samadgatanantaratmana Shadavam bhajate yomam same yukta tamo matak. Of all the yogis, one who's dedicated to me, always thinking of me, always engaged in my service, is the greatest of all. The greatest of all yogis. So the first-class yogi is always thinking of Krishna, how to serve Krishna, how to push forward this movement of International Society for Krishna Consciousness that Prabhupada started in order to disseminate real knowledge of Krishna, to make people happy. And then, like Arjuna, Bhaktosi me Sakha Cheti, one becomes Krishna Bhakta and a friend of Krishna by speaking only the truth about Krishna. So then one is actually happy. You can attain eternal happiness by engaging in this way in Krishna's service. So material life means sense gratification, spiritual life means service. Unselfish, unrelenting service for Krishna. So, material life means sense gratification. Yes, that's called Yan Maitunadi Grihamedi Sukham Hitucham. Srimad Bhagvatam 7:9-45. The Grihamedi accepts the body as all in all, and the extension of the body, such as family, society, relatives, and nation, and ethnicity. He accepts all these things, and then such a person is called Griha Medi. Is very attached to the Griha, all these material things, and the extensions of the body. So, and above all, this relationship of sense gratification between man and woman is the hard knot that keeps people in this material world. And as we see nowadays, people are not satisfied with one wife or one husband. So crazy people like Marilyn Monroe or Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor had 13 husbands, 13 or 14. I think her last one's number 14. And then there are men that have 5, 6, 8 wives, or many trysts with hundreds of women, and this is called yan maitunadi griyamedi sukam hitucham. They're only pleasure in life is mundane sense gratification, and therefore this is completely opposite to the devotees who become vairagis. They renounce this. They said this pleasure is nothing compared to the pleasure of connecting to Krishna through devotional service and helping others also do that. The pleasure they feel by doing that is far out distances any pleasure from sense gratification. And actually, they want to use their senses only in the service of Krishna. So that is our destiny as a human being. And if we can't come to that position, it's just like Cupid or Kamadeva is called Madan. So if we are attached or under the influence of Madan, we engage in sense gratification. But the devotee, he is attached to Madan Mohan, the attractor of even Cupid. Even Cupid is attracted to Krishna, you see, and therefore is not affected by Cupid's arrows that make a person lusty. But when one becomes attracted by Cupid's arrows, they become Madan Dahan, which means they're suffering the heat of lust and greed due to this piercing of their body by the Cupid's arrows. So we want to be Madan Mohan. We want to be attached to the person who attracts Cupid, not Madan Dahan, who is on fire with lust because Cupid has struck them with their arrows. So then one becomes Akuta Bayam, fearless, because when one is attached to temporary things, they're fearful. But when one is attached to Krishna, Madan Mohan, they're fearless because they know nobody can kill me. My soul is eternal. And therefore I should only engage in acts of devotion in this lifetime. Okay, so these are some of the points that Prabhupada makes in this lecture. You can read the lecture yourself also. It is a lecture on Srimad Bhagvatam 3.25.43. 3.25.43, third canto, 25th chapter, 43rd verse. Now, the final point I want to make, it's a little long today, but this is very important. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.15.24, 1.15.24 says, factually, this is all due to the supreme will of the Lord, the personality of Godhead. Sometimes people kill one another, and at other times they protect one another. And Prabhupada says in the purport, according to the anthropologists, there is nature's law of struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. But they do not know that behind the law of nature is the supreme direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it is confirmed that the law of nature is executed under the direction of the Lord. Whenever, therefore, there is peace in the world, it must be known that it is due to the good will of the Lord. And whenever there is upheaval in the world, in other words, war and pestilence and all these different problems, it is also due to the supreme will of the Lord, like COVID. That's also the supreme will of the Lord, where so many people die or get sick. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. Whenever, therefore, there is disobedience of the established rules enacted by Krishna or by the Lord, there is war between men and nations. So, whenever there's these problems in life, and there's plenty of problems in life today, right? It's because people have been disobedient, not following Krishna's instructions. And therefore, it eventually leads to war where men and women kill each other. And on the way, there's tsunamis, there's hurricanes, there's flooding, there's COVID-19, there'll be COVID-24, there'll be COVID-36. All these things are happening because of this disobedience to Krishna. The surest way to the path of peace, therefore, is dovetailing everything to the established rule of the Lord. The established rule is that Yat karosi, Yad asnasi, Yad johosi, Dadasi yat. Yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurusvamadarpanam. 9th chapter, 27th verse. This your homework. Study this verse very carefully. And then the next verse after that. Subha subha palir evam moksyasi karma bandhana. Sanyasya yoga yuktatma vimikto man nasyati. Study both of these verses because it's very important. 927, especially, and then 928. So whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever we sacrifice, or whatever we give in charity or give away, must be done to the full satisfaction of Krishna. No one should do anything, eat anything, sacrifice anything, or give anything in charity against the will of the Lord. Discretion is the better part of valor. Now write that down. That's second homework for tomorrow. Discretion is the better part of valor. Learn what this means. Basically, it means that discretion is the better part of valor. Valor means courage or heroism, bravery. And discretion means being able to decide what's right and what's wrong. So discretion is the better part of valor. One must learn to discriminate between actions which may be pleasing to the Lord and those actions which may not be pleasing to the Lord. An action is thus judged by the Lord's pleasure or displeasure. There's no room for personal whims. We must always be guided by the pleasure of the Lord. Such action is called Yoga Karma Shukoshalam, Bhagavad-Gita 2.50. That's the third homework. Study that verse very carefully. That's called actions performed which are linked with the Supreme. That is the art of doing a thing perfectly. You want to be perfect? Then only do things that are pleasing to Guru and Krishna. Then you'll be perfect. Okay, we'll stop right there. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions? So you have 3 homeworks for tomorrow. Haribol. Oh, boy,